Hello. I've had something on my heart for a while, so I'm just gonna put it out there. We've got a lot of narcissists in this world. We've got a lot of people who spend energy intentionally hurting others. I'm tired of holding my tongue. I feel like I'm in bits and pieces to whomever I thought was the right person, the right authority, the right group to talk about this. But now I'm realizing because none of those entities that are supposed to care, I might as well just build a community around those who have gone through my experience. And a community could be two people. I'm not pressed about numbers. I'm pressed about the potential ability to help and the ability to be the support where I needed it. So you have to be incredibly intentional about the relationships you make, and you have to listen to your gut. And there is something about dealing with trauma, narcissists, healing. I want to create a space. I've looked for it. It could exist. And I'll be honest, I want this to be directed towards women. We have common needs who've gone through trauma and who are dealing with a narcissist. And it's either a short-term relationship, a long-term relationship, whatever it is, a parent. There's no better way to get through things than talking about it. I get the law of attraction. I get visualization. I get you have to, put out what you want. I also know that you may not be able to, or I have found from my personal experience, and I'll just say this is just all about my personal experience and what I've been through. I have found that the bottling this up and the forgiveness path without the being able to really flesh it out and to really be able to get the support you need in that process, then I haven't found that the forgiveness could come. So maybe it's about community. Maybe it's about the isolation I've been in. There is a deprogramming that needs to happen after you've been in a toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationship. And I still am getting deprogrammed. I'm deprogramming myself. And I'm also putting myself out there because, people, it's the internet. This isn't a secret. So I've found that when I make particular posts, they get more aggressive. They start doing things. They start coming in harder with the energy they're putting behind my children. The training of my children to say the things that they used to say to me. Back during the pandemic, my kids were younger, and my youngest, maybe 8 or 9 years old. You gonna be Instagram famous? Where do you get that from? Didn't have a phone yet. And I'm sure kids at school say things. And that could just be, whatever. I have I've been broken down for so long. I haven't been able to think straight. And they know this. So I'm not ashamed of crawling, because that's what I've been doing. And I'm not ashamed of, I have been ashamed of it. I have been afraid of speaking up, of putting this out there, of saying, yeah, well, the physical didn't happen much, but it did happen. Um, that's what you do when you're in a trauma state. You literally make excuses for the person. I still find myself in that making excuses space. I was on and not to say, and this is part of what has made me feel like I want to come out and talk about this is, there was a room that I fell upon and talking to someone about how their adult children just are horrific to them. And I said, what you got to understand is when you were in that situation, you were an adult. And you couldn't prevent them from planning thoughts. You couldn't prevent them from making your self-esteem feel poorly. You couldn't prevent them from changing your mind. You could not deal with the wrath of disagreeing with them as an adult. So how are those kids, even adult children who've been dealing with this their whole life, supposed to have the capacity to do that? I've got so many mosquito bites, so that's why I'm shaking and itching. So it's just, I think that we have to get honest about this conversation. And we've got a former president, one of the most blatant gaslighting narcissists that he says the quiet stuff out loud, And I keep thinking about all these attacks that were against Biden, and now they're against Kamala. And it's like, I'm not going to diminish who I am, because my first thought was, well, I'm not as, big as or important as, but it's the same thing. It's just a lower scale. It's a lower scale where you have sat in this mentality that the court says, do not disparage the other parent. So you don't even speak up about the things that have happened or occurred. Because they keep you in this state of fear, even after you've left. And they enjoy that. That is, they're winning. So, the court tells you not to say anything negative. So you try not to say anything negative. And they're meanwhile in the ear, they're saying all those things, and you're taking the high road. You're going high, and they keep going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. What is a person to do? Work on the healing. Work through the betrayal of therapists. Work through the betrayal of the system. Build a community. Speak out. I've operated in fear probably for my entire life. That's just been what I've done. And operating from a place of fear does not make the best decisions. And if I'm going to be afraid, if I'm going to keep having to dodge, if I'm going to have to keep worrying about my safety, I might as well leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Because the hell I've lived in life is reason enough to just risk it all. Just risk it all. What do I have to lose? They already spent energy trying to hurt me. They've already spent energy trying to turn my kids against me. They are already spending energy. They've already, the analogy I use is I kept having this vision of an animal like in the desert and being picked apart by vultures to their carcass, and they're just skin and bones, and then like the bones are getting even eaten into. And that's how I felt. Like my spirit, my possessions, and like right now I'm becoming this phoenix, right? Like everything's getting rebuilt, my bones, my skin, my flesh, my feathers, and I'm gonna fly. I'm going to. I'm destined to. I've always been destined to, and that's been the struggle. You know, you cannot be involved with anyone who is jealous of you, who doesn't want you to shine, who when you tell them I'm dying inside, they smile. How did you end up in this scenario? How did you end up with this type of a person who would treat you this way? My parents did the best they could, but it wasn't always what I needed. And I didn't get the reinforcement. I didn't get the wise grandmas and wise aunties out because we moved away from family when I was really young. So a lot of that foundation of common sense and self-pride and all that kind of stuff, I have crazy intuition. But when that is buried beneath fear and insecurity and all of those kinds of things, it's hard, right? Like it's not easy to figure it out. So I just want to extend an olive branch and say that purging the bad is really important, whether it be people, habits, clothes, just clutter. However, you have to fill that back up with something. And I think that where I have struggled is filling it back up. I've done a lot of purging, and I'm still purging. Now it's time to fill it back up. And I'm not afraid anymore. I guess this is the kind of situation where when you know you've had enough and you just say screw it. Like, can it get if the way I've been going, not saying anything, is not working. Okay, little bits and pieces. But how about me rallying up? I'm all sweaty. Rallying up a team like they do. Rallying up support, because we're human beings. You know, we need that interaction with others, and I just want a team to be with me on healing. So some people create teams for destruction. I want to create a team for healing. I want to make women, specifically women, but those who have gone through trauma and abusive, toxic gaslighting, to stop carrying the burden of it happening to you and you convincing yourself that there's something wrong with you because it happened. Like, that's not okay. Carrying the burden of the secret of what happened to you, because it's just not comfortable for people, and you're supposed to get over it. And all those people telling all these people like myself, get over it. It's because I truly believe it's because they've got that kind of behavior. They just don't want to hear it because it shines a light. It shines a mirror in what they've been through. So I'm 51. In this scenario of trauma, relationship trauma, direct, intimate relationship trauma, directly consumed my life for 15 years, and the aftermath of it has been 10 years. So I've spent 25 years, half of my life, dealing with working through, making sense of, being traumatized by, trying to heal from, the toxicity and the abuse and the gaslighting and the narcissism. When you tell someone that you're dying inside and they laugh, and you don't have it in you to even see what that means, you're so buried under. Somebody's got to go and excavate you out of that place. Nobody's going to help you. You got to do it alone. You got to, yes, you have to. But when you've been doing it alone and you've made a decision that because of you've been isolated, because you've been assumed to be a bad person because of the company you're keeping, because you've become so awkward and obnoxious, even almost, maybe, because you start assuming the behaviors of the people that you are around, then it's hard to get out of that, because that's who you've become. That's who they've assisted you into morphing into. You begin to get like the people you're around, negative and hateful, and they make you feel bad, and they make you question things so they can keep you in this bubble. And less and less people are around you who can support you in different thought. And those people who are around you who support you in different thought, they find a way to get rid of them. So I'm just putting this out there because I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not. And our last president has made it abundantly clear that the gates are open for all the crazies to be this way. So not only are we dealing with our interpersonal relationships, we're dealing with an entire world who is doing this to us, who is gaslighting us. And add another layer of being a person of color. I don't care what color that is. If you are not fitting into the WASP mold that they made, that is supposed to be, those who are okay, then you've got other layers. You've got your interpersonal. You've got your interfaith. You've got your family. You've got your within your race. So let's be supportive of each other. Let's listen to each other's stories. Don't be afraid anymore to tell your story. You're not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. And I also know I'm not the only one who's been afraid to speak up, because their reach is so grand and so vast. And when they've infiltrated your entire life and picked you to your bones, it's hard to come back from that. It just is. So enough of being ashamed, enough of being embarrassed. It's all about the truth. And it's taken me a long time because of fear, of just general fear, but also the fear of, my kids are too young. I don't want them to think bad things of, the situation and all of these things. But it's like, how much longer can I hold on to the silence of the way I've been treated, the way I'm being treated? It's a lot easier to forgive stuff when it stops. But if it's not going to stop, then you have to stop it. If you're not going to stop, it has to be stopped. So you can take that, damn mosquito bites, however you want to. Seriously. Because you're going to manipulate it no matter what. You know, all those stalking my Instagram because I'm so damn interesting. How you doing? This is important. I'm not going through this. I'm not editing it. I'm not adding fancy whatevers to it. I'm putting it up. I'm posting it. I'm tired of procrastinating. There's so many videos in my phone. And I'm just putting this up there. I'm tired. I'm tired of being tired. And survivors should not have to pay and continue to pay for what is done to them and what has happened with them. And if it were just me, as the selfless empaths often think, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one affected. I'm not the only life affected. And I'm tired. And the only way to start a storm is to become a trickle. So I'm on a trickle until I become a storm. There are so many ways you can be evil, destructive, hurtful. It takes so much more energy. It takes so much more backtracking. However, it doesn't have to be that way. And we now live in this world where we can talk to whomever we want to, whenever we want to, however we want to reach strangers. So I know I'm not the only one. And I'm sending you all the love. And I'm sending you all of the strength to just own your story and be good to yourself. Like, seriously, be good to yourself. So I'll be back soon. Don't miss me. All I'm going to do is pray for you. And all I'm going to do is pray. Take it easy.